I think it's important that you said it's hard to leave, but it's also very hard to stay, right? And so it's almost you got to choose your hard, but the difference is when you stay, that trauma is going to continue and you can't heal in the environment that is hurting you, okay? So yes, it's hard to be in it, but when you leave and some of us just leave with the shirt off our backs and we have children and we don't have jobs and we think it's impossible, it's going to be hard. But that's when the healing journey starts because you've taken yourself out of that environment and you give yourself an opportunity to break that cycle and to grow and to have a different life. But you rob yourself of that as long as you're staying in that environment. So I think I love that you brought that up, that it is hard, but it's hard staying too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like choose your hard. Hi there. Welcome back to the Survive to Thrive Warrior Voices. Today we have Rhonda Codere with us. Rhonda is a multi-phase trauma survivor. She has gone through several different types of traumas, and she's here to talk with us today, not only about the different traumas that she has gone through, but also how she has healed from them and has been thriving in her life, regardless of all the trauma that she's been through. I'm excited to have her on today. She is a trauma survivor ambassador as well. And so I want to welcome my Thrive Tribe. So I'm excited to have you guys here listening. I think this is going to be a great conversation between Rhonda and I. So let's get started, Rhonda. So to let the tribe know, just to give them a little bit of background, you've gone through, like I said, several different types of trauma. It started at a very young age. You were sexually assaulted. And then later in life, you found yourself in a long-term domestic violence relationship. You've also been sexually assaulted by an ex-spouse. Throughout all of this, it sounds to me like your family had a lot of addiction going on. And so you fell into addiction yourself, which you are in recovery. So congratulations on that. And you also went through cervical cancer, correct?
Yes.
My gosh, girl, that is a lot. And that's really what this trauma survivor program is all about is really getting out there all the different types of traumas. And you, my lady, have gone through a lot. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being so brave to share your story because there are so many out there that are suffering in silence. Either they're shamed into being quiet, they're living behind fear, or they just haven't found a safe space to be able to share their story. And that's my goal, is to give men and women a safe space to start talking about their trauma, because I believe the more we talk about our trauma, the more we heal. So if you don't mind, let's start talking about your childhood, even before the sexual assault as a child. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and then kind of lead us into what happened.
All right. Thank you for having me, first of all. I was raised by a single mom with my brother and sister. She was a single mom, and she was also an alcoholic. We just had free range, so we kind of just had no structure. We lived in a neighborhood that had my grandparents next door, aunts and uncles down the road and around the corner. So we lived in a neighborhood. We were looked after by our relatives, but that also opened up the door for those predators to make their way into my life because there was no guidance at all.
Okay.
I was, I guess, brought in or bribed to come in, like, I'll give you cigarettes, I'll give you candy. And this was like at 10 years old. So,
Wow.
those are things that, as a 10-year-old girl, I have, father in my life, and I just going back every day, just thinking like, this is normal, I guess. I just had no idea.
Well, sure. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but so you're being raised by a single mom.
Mhm.
So she's out working. She's an alcoholic herself, so she's probably not very present in your life. You were surrounded by family members that lived close. That sounds like they all kind of helped look over you, but that also exposed you to predators,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
But if it's family, those are the people you're supposed to trust. Those are the
Exactly.
people that you just any adult at age 10, you think that any adult, whatever it is that they're saying and doing must be right,
Mm-hmm.
right? A
Yes.
lot of us, especially our age, was raised to respect adults,
Mm-hmm.
and to do what they tell us to do.
Right.
So I can imagine that at age 10, um, you pretty much having to kind of make it on your own. And here comes this trusted adult family member
Mm-hmm.
that is giving you cigarettes and making you feel like, well, how did it make you feel when he was giving you cigarettes and doing all these things other than it was normal?
Right. Yeah. I just thought, well, geez, he really loves me to like let me do, to give me cigarettes and candy and whatever I wanted, because I just
Wow.
didn't have that anywhere else. So I just really thought at that time that that was just a normal thing. Just
Sure.
had no clue.
I think anyone in your situation at that age would feel that way. And, hence why it's illegal, and especially from someone that's you trust. And I'm really sorry that you had to experience that at such a young age, because I know the implications that come with early childhood sexual assault. Um, my daughter went through that. I saw all of the horrific aftermath that comes with that. They say that at the age that you start getting sexually assaulted, um, is really when your emotional maturity kind of stops.
Mm-hmm.
And so you started getting sexually assaulted by a trusted family member. Um, uh, Tell me about your childhood then from that point forward. Were you able to get help? Was this something that you had to hold in?
Yeah, no, it was something I had to hold in just because in the 70s, that was just so hush hush.
Mm, yeah.
Even like he wasn't the only one. There was like two others that would bribe me with alcohol, and just it was just really awful. And I did speak up to the women of my family. So I told my mom about one incident, and then
Hmm.
all the women came to my house, but they just kept it really quiet. They didn't tell the men of the family. And they basically just slapped this man on the wrist, and that was it.
Wow.
So then
So
later,
looking back to that, when you did open up and tell your mom and other women in the family, and they just kind of turned their cheek to it,
mhm,
what did that tell you?
yeah, it just made it more normal. Like it's,
Mm.
and then as I got older, like my trust, that just really just started my trust issues. Because
Oh,
if
for
I can't
sure.
trust these women to protect me, like I had
Right.
no one else to protect me.
Oh my gosh. Again, how horrific.
That was,
I can't imagine having that done at such a young age and feeling
mm,
so isolated and not feeling like you had anyone to turn to. And like you said, back in the 70s, it's not like now where there are these outside resources, right?
right,
Or the parents even really knew that this
mhm,
was a thing. Like they didn't talk about that kind of stuff back
right,
then at all.
right,
Um, So I can see how this trauma, and without getting any type of feeling of validation or justice or any type of closure, could lead into some of your trauma that came after. So
mhm.
talk to me about like going into how this led you into a situation of domestic violence.
Well, I just also watched my mother get abused by men. So again, that just made things like this is normal. So when I met my first husband, he just drank and did drugs all the time, and it got violent. Um, so that all started, and I stayed in that for about 3 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, but it was just, I felt that's what I'm supposed to, I guess this is where I'm supposed to be, because you did, growing up, I was used, not used to it, I guess, but kind of. This is just all I knew. So I just thought this was supposed to be normal. This is how I was supposed to be treated. And I
Mm,
was just so young and naive and had absolutely no self-worth, no self-esteem. Then I ended up getting pregnant when I was 15 with my first daughter. And then I felt like my ex-husband, he took her in as his own. But I just felt I had to stay because I'm a single mom. And that looks
right.
really bad. So I stayed in this situation for 3 or 4 years, and also had another child in there. So I just felt like being a single mom, I had to get married. So I did all these things thinking this is what I was supposed to be doing.
Hmm. Well, yeah, probably looking back and seeing what your mom went through and was going through as an addict and a single mom, that it makes sense on how, okay, I'm in a relationship. You're hoping that that meant it would be better,
Right,
right? And that you wouldn't go through what your mother went through, but yet you found yourself
right,
in a very similar situation. So now you're drinking, and you are dealing with domestic violence. So at what point, you said it was a couple of years, and I can't imagine um, going through that. And again, with the trust issues, uh, just wondering when is the next time going to be. If you
right,
had no self-worth, I'm sure that I'm sorry, but I love you, baby. When you guys were sober and there was good times,
mhm,
it was easier to try to hold on to those good times,
right,
right?
yeah.
So at what point was enough for you?
Just when I don't know what happened when I turned 22, or actually 23. I just woke up one day and I'm like, my daughters are older now, they're 5 and 6. And I'm like, I cannot live like this with my daughters. I do not want them to think that this was okay or normal, because they've already seen enough. They watched me getting arrested several times, and they just saw way too much for young girls. And I just thought back to when myself growing up, what I was exposed to, and I just did not want to hurt that for my girls.
Mm.
So then when I was 23, I just packed up and left.
That had to be terrifying
It
to
was.
start over and be on your
That's,
own, but good for you for
yeah,
starting that, breaking the cycle,
yeah, it was very
right? Um,
scary.
And, you know, what a wonderful thing you did for your daughters is because, like you said, watching your mom get abused
Mhm.
and to abuse alcohol, that became your norm.
Right,
So at some point, I'm guessing you're like, I don't want my kids to think that this is normal.
right.
And the only way to do that was to get them out of that situation. And I can't imagine how difficult that was,
Yeah, it was
getting
really,
them
really
out of
hard. It took several attempts to get to that point.
there. Oh, I bet. I bet. They say on average, someone will attempt to leave a domestic violence um, partner up to 7 times.
Yeah.
7 times. And
It's a
that's so
scary thing
scary.
to do, especially when you're
So,
young and kids are involved.
wow. So, gosh, now you're 23. You
Hmm.
have two daughters. You've already gone through more trauma than any person should go through in a lifetime.
Hmm.
Um, and at this point, you still haven't had any validation or justice for the sexual assault.
Yeah,
I'm guessing you didn't get any for the domestic violence
no,
situations that you
no,
were in.
I never called the police because I was too scared
Yeah, I bet. What were you scared of?
of him killing me, because he threatened it
Retaliating?
several times. And just, yeah. And even after I divorced him, he still stalked me and tried running my daughters and I up the road. And it was still very scary. I was not at peace even years after that.
that's insane. And I think it happens more often
Mhm.
than what anybody talks about. So
Mhm.
I am so incredibly grateful for you to be sharing this story, because they say that leaving a domestic violence situation can be very, very dangerous. You and I both have done a lot of work for Haven,
Mhm.
which is an organization that helps women, men, and children out of domestic violence or sexual assault situations. And we've learned through them that having an emergency plan, and I'm guessing at 23 years old, you had no idea what that was,
Mhm. Well, my
right?
family member came and took my daughter and I to her house, so
Um,
we were in a safe place.
Thank goodness for them, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
not everybody has a family member that they can turn to, but there are places out there like Haven that will help you come up with an escape plan.
Very.
So you're not putting yourself in a even more dangerous situation when you do decide to leave.
Mhm.
It's not always that you have to go to a shelter, but just, you know, getting all your records together, your driver's license, your birth certificate. People will leave a situation and realize, like, I don't even have my birth certificate or my
Mhm.
social security card. They have no identity,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes.
Um, so, so now you're 23 years old. You've left this domestic violence situation, but your ex is still stalking you. How
Mhm.
long did that go on, or how did that end?
That went on probably, we divorced in 93, so that went on probably to like 95. And then he
Wow.
finally got in a relationship, and he still would give me a hard time, but it wasn't like it was because
Okay.
he had someone else who could do that too.
Right. And that's usually what it is, right? And then until
Yes,
they find their next victim.
right, exactly.
Um, so so now you're okay. So once that started to settle down and you have your kids, what was life like then?
I still like had like horrible trust issues, so I didn't really trust anybody. It was hard to be in relationships just because I didn't trust anybody. So I drank a lot still after leaving him just because I was like in my 20s, and that was
Yeah.
my, everybody was having a good time partying, and so I really got caught up into that and kind of just took a spiral downhill.
So when you've said it a couple times that you didn't trust anybody. Can you
Mhm.
elaborate on what that means?
Well, just I wouldn't trust my heart with anybody because of the people that I've trusted that I loved with all my heart hurt me. Even down to the women in the family, they ruined my trust, betrayed my trust when I trust them the most, and did nothing for me. And then, with my ex-husband, that just reiterated like the men in my family that hurt me. I loved him, my ex-husband, as much as I loved them, and he hurt me. So just anybody that I like really, really loved and like get close to me, they've hurt me. And so just
Sure.
trying to build that trust up and let somebody in my life has been really, really hard.
Well, it sounds like to me like you're protecting yourself,
Yes.
and that's what's so hard about having your family betray you at such a young age, is
Hmm.
that you do grow up with trust issues.
Yes.
You grow up with a dysfunctional way of thinking of what love actually is
Hmm.
and what you deserve and how you should be treated, and what is actually normal and
Hmm.
what is not normal. Um, and yeah, you were drinking, you were 23, you got out of this abusive relationship, and, you know, maybe part of you felt it was freeing,
Hmm.
right? It was
Yes.
kind of a, an escape for yourself.
Hmm.
So tell me what having those trust issues and then doing the drinking and the partying, how that played a role into your life, good or bad.
I was just self-destructive from like that point on up until honestly like the last 5 years. I was just I still, I, at that point, excuse me, I just would not let anybody get close to me because I was just doing my thing. I was drinking. I didn't want to be bothered by anybody. I was neglectful emotionally for my daughters at this point, and I was there for them every day, but I was just out. I wasn't mentally always there for them just because I was just so caught up in doing what I wanted to do. And I don't know if that was because I was a mom at 16 and I saw this other life, or I wasn't sure, but I was still like, I was working full time. I went to school and I was still doing things I was supposed to be doing, but I just went down that rabbit hole of, drinking all the time and just not being present.
It's crazy because our stories are somewhat similar when it comes to that. Like raising, I had two boys and my daughter, and the one thing, and I was actively drinking for, a lot of my daughter's childhood,
Mm-hmm.
from like age 4 or 5 until 12,
Yeah.
maybe. And that really imperative age where they learn from their moms and what trust is and what love is.
Yeah.
And, for me, one of the things I carried was, I didn't teach my daughter how to love herself.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was going through counseling and I had gotten, into recovery and I was doing my amends, she just was angry with me.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. She held a lot of anger until I finally said, I took the accountability of, I didn't teach you how to love yourself because I didn't know how to do it myself. But you can't teach somebody something you don't know,
Right. That
right?
makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I was the functioning alcoholic too. I was working full-time job. I was there for my kids, and they did chores and homework, and they did all the things. But
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, I was absent
Yeah.
because I had nothing. But I do think too that it goes back to, yes, getting into a relationship at a young age, a committed relationship, becoming a mother at such a young age,
Mm-hmm.
that when you finally got out of that committed marriage, then it is like, what do I do with my life?
Yeah.
You've had no structure up
Mm-mm.
until then,
Right.
right? So you're just trying to figure yourself out and who you are. And I think it's very common, and that's exactly what I did. It was after my divorce that I started drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a single mom, 3 kids, and I used to say, I'll do what I want
Mm-hmm.
because I was living a controlling relationship. So the more they said, you need to stop drinking, the more I drank because I was done having people tell me what to do,
It's like a
right?
freedom.
Right.
Mhm.
So looking back now, okay, so at what point then were you diagnosed with cancer?
That was when I was 35
Okay.
years
So
later.
you did you get remarried after?
I didn't get remarried, but I was met my son's dad in 1997,
Okay.
which started all the things up again, like the
Mm,
abuse, and just so I let myself fall back into that pattern. And we were together for 10 years, but we never married. Then we had our
okay.
son after being together 6 years.
Okay.
And that was
So
more terrifying
we,
than me with my ex-husband.
how's that?
He was just he would like the black his eyes would just get so black and dark, and he'd try to like kill us both to like, just driving down the road and veering off. It was just really, really a bad relationship, very
Okay.
toxic. And we drank our whole relationship, like heavily drinking and doing drugs, and it was that just escalated things. The drinking and doing drugs. I just need the violence, and everything else just 10 times worse.
So so you stayed for 10 years in this relationship. How do you feel like all your previous trauma played a role into landing yourself into another very toxic, abusive relationship for 10 years?
Yeah. I had just everything that I built between getting divorced and then up to that time meeting him. I was just at the height of like having the greatest time partying, and I just fell right back into it because he would supply everything: the drinks, the alcohol, the drugs, the jewelry, because he also sold drugs. So I always had nice clothes, nice jewelry, just things I never had. So I
Mm.
really just got myself into it with that one, with that relationship.
I usually say that if we don't heal, really, really heal
Hmm.
after trauma, um, in a way, we become our own worst abuser.
Yeah.
And we do that through addiction. We do that through body shaming. We do that through just multiple ways that we just are become our own worst enemy. And
Yes.
it sounds to me like, um, well, you kind of became your own worst abuser by allowing this person to do all of these scary, terrifying things. But it was like survival. It sounds more like it was survival to
Hmm.
me. Um, n- n- One thing I drives me crazy is that people say, well, why didn't they just leave? If it was so bad, why didn't they leave? Um, and it's like nobody that's in a domestic violence
Hmm.
situation wants to be
Yeah.
in a domestic violence situation. There are reasons why they stay.
Hmm.
And I always tell people just be grateful that if you don't know why they stay, then you haven't been subjected to it. So consider yourself lucky that
Very
you
lucky.
don't know.
Hmm.
So yes, I'm guessing there was good times in between too, though, right? That you
There were
would hold
some,
on.
yeah. There were some. I had my son. That
Mhm.
was, but yeah, I mean, we had good times in between. But a lot of it, like my daughters were still living at home, and they were really subjected to the violence, the drinking, the drugs.
Mhm.
He excluded them out of our family vacation. So I mean, it was just really, really bad. So that now, as my daughters are adults, I feel like I'm responsible for them. I'm making emotion out of that. For them
Mhm.
having hard times now, like emotionally and depression and stuff like that. I'm responsible for that.
Well, I appreciate that you're saying that. And it's I just would encourage you to not find blame or fault in yourself. And we're going to get into your recovery and how you're healing. And you mentioned earlier, at least 5 years, right?
Yes.
So to me, what matters is what you're showing your daughters now.
Right.
And, um, and regardless of what they're going through, there's always hope for a better life.
Mm.
And with a little bit of work, and personal development, learning your self-worth, learning boundaries, being in recovery, all of those things, you can have an amazing life. And you're there. You're getting, because I'll talk about this, but you just got like promoted, right?
Right.
Your career is doing great. You're a part of an amazing Jeep Club, the Jeep
Yes.
Babes Rescue chapter. You do a lot of charity work. So, like, your life right now is the complete polar opposite of everything
Yes.
that we've talked about so far, right?
Mm.
So I want to tell you too about, um, you know, even my daughter was asked that one time. We were public speaking for a group of women of AA and Al-Anon,
Mm-hmm.
and this mother had been in recovery for 20 years, and her children kept blaming her for
Mm-hmm.
everything that was going on that was wrong in their life.
Mm.
And they asked my daughter Hope, like, about that, like, what can I do? Like, I've done my amends. I'm living my life differently. Like, she feels bad. Like, she feels like she needs to bail them out all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because she feels like she was the root cause of
Right.
their problems. And, my daughter went through watching domestic violence with her mother. She went through her mother being an alcoholic. So she was a
Mm-hmm.
child of an alcoholic. And she said something along the lines of, um, when when you stop allowing them to make you their excuse,
Mm-hmm.
and you start making them have their own consequences, is when that will stop. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, because Hope did still, she had a lot of anger from my recovery
Yeah.
because then she found herself in addiction. And I think my recovery, it bothered her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think deep down she was happy her mom quit drinking and things like that. But she didn't, where I was at in life, she couldn't see herself getting there. So she was
Mm-hmm.
almost like she resented it. But when she said that, I was like, she does get it. She gets
Yeah.
it deep down. So I feel that it's got to be a heavy burden for you to
Mm-hmm.
carry. Um, you're not at fault for what your daughters may be going through or what they're feeling. Um, and you can certainly keep showing them the better way.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that should hold you accountable to your recovery and to keep on the path that you're going, because you need to show them it works,
Right.
you know? So our work as a mother is never done.
Oh,
And
never.
no parent is perfect, and we have all subjected our children to things that we can look back now and go, "Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Yes.
believe I put my kids through that." Um, but you did the best you could with what you had at the
Right.
time, right? You lived in fear. You lived with no self-worth. You lived with no trust, and everybody you trusted and loved up to that point
Mm-hmm.
had abused you,
Yeah.
deeply abused you.
Mm-hmm.
So So now you've gotten out of this 10-year relationship with
Mm-hmm.
your son's father. Um, have you been on your own since then?
Yes, I have been.
Okay. So tell me about your how you started to heal from all this, because again, then you got cancer
Mm-hmm.
and you were still in addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
how did you get to where you're at sober with a thriving career, a thriving sober social life? Everybody loves you. You're a part of a care team. So you literally volunteer your time to reach out to other people that are needing support.
Mm-hmm.
Like you give your heart out so freely. So how did you get to that point without being resentful and anger and bitter and all those things that somebody that has gone through this whole list of trauma could
Mm-hmm.
very easily be?
Yeah. I just did a lot of soul searching. I have not been in a relationship since 2003 because I was not allowed to until my son grew up. So I just took that time to focus on my son and myself, and just I had to heal myself because I could just, just I knew I wasn't gonna be in a relationship again if I don't do something, or not even that, just relationship with friends and families. And so I just did a lot of soul searching, a lot of reading and self-help books. And my sister she's very good to talk to also. So just a lot of help from her in my healing journey. Um,
What are
but
some of the
just
things she did or said that was so helpful for you?
Well, she reminds me a lot of you because she just has so much wisdom. She's been in the same as I have been, so but she just has so much more wisdom than I do sometimes, and just just helping me realize that I am worthy. I deserve better than what I've given myself or allowed others to give me and do to me. So she just really has been so insightful and helping me. And
I'm so
she's
glad
very
to hear.
positive and impactful.
And maybe I could have her on the podcast as, what support people can do
Yeah.
to help
Okay.
others that go through the trauma or to heal from the trauma, because it sounds like she is your person that really
Yes.
helped pull you out of that darkness.
Yes.
So soul searching. So you said that, and you said reading self-help books,
Mhm.
and then at some point you decided to get sober.
Yes.
That had to be one of the biggest things that you did
That was huge.
to
And
start you on your healing journey.
that came from my young son, who said he gets tired of coming home from his dad seeing me passed out on the couch. Because I would
Mm,
just sit and like drink 2 bottles of wine every night, and he'd come home and I was knocked out on the couch and couldn't wake up. So he was my biggest influence to help me like realize, you are like 50 years old. It wasn't even that long ago. Like, you got to get your crap together. If my son is, the only one I'm saying this to me, like, that's means a lot.
right.
That was
Wow.
that impacted me more than anything in this world. Just know that it bothered him that much. And
Hmm.
then, like, where I was working, that was one of our questions, like, has anybody complained about you drinking? And I thought about that. I'm like, yes, yes, they have. So that really helped me. And I was just tired of drinking, and I just stopped. Like, one day I
Hmm.
was like, I'm done. I just can't do this anymore. My body's tired, my brain's tired. And, I was that, or I just didn't really want to live anymore because I was just so emotionally tired.
You're just
So
drained,
yeah, I was
exhausted.
just, yes,
So
definitely.
how did you quit? Did you go to any programs, or did you just make up your mind and cold turkey?
Yeah, I just cold turkey. I'm just done. So
Yeah, yeah.
I was just done, and I just
Okay.
didn't want anymore. And did something better, and so I just had to change my life around and get my brain right because it wasn't healthy.
No, addiction and alcohol does not. It carries a lot of shame,
Mhm.
a lot of regrets, a lot of guilt, a lot of just darkness that weighs on you
Yes.
so heavily that in order to free yourself from it, you just drink more, or you do the next drug, and again, you got to a point where you wanted to break that cycle.
Yes.
And it's it's incredible that you did it cold turkey.
Hmm.
Um, that takes a lot of strength, because if you're not going to like a rehab, or um, put yourself into some program like AA or anything like that, you have to be responsible of holding yourself accountable. What has life been like then since you've gotten sober and you started doing the soul searching? I know you said you're still single, which I think I really feel that that is so imperative for any trauma survivor that leaves a domestic relationship and they have found themselves, um, maybe in multiple ones. They go because they have that sense of normalcy.
Hmm.
They're comfortable in the abuse. It's really uncomfortable for someone to come in and really love you in a
Hmm.
genuine way. It's like that that makes you uncomfortable
It
when you're so
does.
used to the difference. So what when you got sober, how long have you been sober? Okay,
2020,
2020.
5 years. 5 years.
5 years. 5 years, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. And in that 5 years, how has your life changed?
I lost a lot of friends, which they weren't really friends. How I
Hmm.
look at it, they were my drinking friends.
Sure.
They supplied the drugs too, so they just weren't, they were out for my best interest. So um, I'm more focused, and my brain's not foggy anymore. And I just feel
That brain.
more, yeah, I just feel like more alive and alert. I'm more present for my grandkids. I'm just very present for my family right now. And I wasn't
How
before.
does how does that feel to be present for your grandkids now? When you're feeling a little bit guilty that you weren't there emotionally, mentally for your daughters and stuff,
Mhm.
but now you are able to with your grandkids.
Yeah.
What does that do for your self-worth?
It's just, I feel like I have with them, like I have a second chance to be a better version of myself and give them the better part of me.
Mhm.
And just the excitement and joy they have when they see me, no matter if it's been a couple of weeks. It's just so fulfilling and it just fills my heart.
Sure.
So
How d
it's
how did you get, so you said when you got sober, you lost a lot of friends, and it had to be difficult because when your brain, that brain fog starts to lift a little bit,
mhm.
you kind of smacked pretty hard with reality of all the destruction that you've done during your addiction. How did you deal with that and still stay sober?
I well, it was COVID, thank goodness. So I kind of was just home, and I spent a lot of time with my son and his fiance, and was like lived with me at the time. So it was just really helpful knowing that they're there. We're supporting each other through this ordeal in the first place with COVID, and so it was just the perfect time and situation for me to just focus on trying to stay healthy through all that, and then trying to stay healthy
Mm,
sober. Just and then I just got really involved with work, and that's when I met you guys. And so that was
right.
just so that's where I really like I do not need to be intoxicated or high to have a great time.
Right.
Yeah, so
So, to my Thrive tribe, when she says that's when I met you guys, she's referring to the Jeep Babes. So we're an all women's Jeep group that I help lead. We have like 4,700 women in Michigan alone. Um, and it has been a great, safe, comfort space for
mhm,
a lot of women.
yes.
And it's remarkable to be a part of that. And that's where you come in and you're on the care team for that Jeep group,
Mhm,
and you bring that sense of security and support and feeling of safeness, right,
yes.
to so many other women. And then, so in the more recently, since I started the Trauma Survivor Ambassador Program, you were one of the very first people to sign up as an ambassador.
Mhm,
And I want to talk a little bit about what made you decide to do that. And then I want you to talk to the survivors that may be listening now that may have either just gone through domestic violence, or they've gone through, almost a lifetime. Like you
mhm.
lived most of your life. Is this fair to say? Most of your
Yes,
life in,
yes.
and if not in trauma, it just from the aftermath of what unhealed
Mhm,
trauma brings to your life. So what well, let's go back to what made you decide to become an ambassador and speak so public about this, because I've known you through Jeep Babes for a couple of years,
mhm,
and I didn't know most of this about your story. It's not like you go around talking about it all the time.
mhm,
And I know you've done some coaching with me and you participated in the group coaching that I had and stuff like that. And that's when I started to learn a little bit about your story.
mhm.
So, what made you decide to be so loud about your recovery and your healing journey?
Well, as soon as I heard you were going to do this, I was like, I'm in. Just because I've always, even when I was going through it, I always wanted to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in that situation, you feel like there's no way out, but there really is. So my
Mm-hmm.
mission was to help even just one person. If I can inspire one person, but I want to inspire many, there's hope, there's help. You have people behind you, even if you feel like you don't. So that
Mm-hmm.
was my reason for doing this.
So, and I love that. Like I always say, turning your pain into purpose.
Mhm, yes.
And I think that, my goal is to build a community of trauma survivors where
Mhm,
we help each other and we share our stories and in the different ways of healing, so we can all learn from one another. I think healing is a lifelong journey. It's not like, okay, I cross off all the boxes and now I'm healed,
right.
but you'll get signs. You'll get signs that you're healing. Like you put yourself in an all women's Jeep group, yet in early childhood, it was all the women you were so close to that betrayed you.
Right.
So that shows some growth there, that you even allowed yourself
Mhm,
into that space surrounded by women. So you have survivors listening right now. You
Mhm.
have people that maybe know somebody that they want to help that is going through trauma. What would you like to tell them?
Okay, first you want to hopefully find one person that you can trust, and let them in and know what's going on. Because I hid mine for years. Nobody
Mm.
knew what was happening in my home. So I came to the point where, like, you have to get out. If it's for yourself, it has to be for yourself first, and then do it for your children. Um, I just packed up everything. I left a lot, but I just packed everything up and just left. It was not easy, and I did it several times. Packed it up and I can't do this tonight. It's not the right time. But there's never going to be a right time. But
Right.
just find it deep in yourself to do it. You are worth so much more, and there's so much more life to live. And that's just not the life you want to live
Mm.
long term or even short term. But
Right.
just there's shelters, there's haven, there's places to go, and people who will support you.
I think it's important that you said it's hard to leave, but it's also very hard to stay, right?
Hmm.
And so it's almost you got to choose your hard. But the difference is when you stay, that trauma is going to continue, and you
Hmm.
can't heal in the environment that is hurting you.
Right.
Okay, so yes, it's hard to be in it, but when you leave, and some of us just leave with the shirt off our backs, and we
Hmm.
have children and we don't have jobs and we think it's impossible, it's going to be hard.
Yes.
But that's when the healing journey starts, because you've taken yourself out of that environment and you give yourself an opportunity to break that cycle and to grow and to have a different life. But you rob yourself of that as long as you're staying in that environment. So I think
Hmm.
it's really, I love that you brought that up, that it is hard,
Hmm.
but it's hard staying too.
Yes.
So it's kind of like choose your hard. Um, So, and you said find one person that you can trust. Reach out. There are lots of different organizations. Unlike when you were growing up,
Hmm.
um, it, these were like taboo subjects. We didn't talk about sexual assault or domestic violence, and just the view on women and their husbands were completely different
Yes.
back then than they are now. Um, so I what I've noticed, like with your story, is that it was kind of like a hamster wheel ever since you were young,
Hmm.
and in your first trauma of being a child of an alcoholic, then led into the next trauma, and then the next trauma, and it that trauma cycle did not stop until you decided, I'm done, I'm tired,
Hmm.
and in your case, decided to quit drinking,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
to reclaim your power. So, what would you say to other survivors that find themselves on that same hamster wheel, that they're going from one relationship to the next, and lo and behold, it becomes toxic again because
Hmm.
it's not their fault. It is not their fault. It makes sense why they do that, because they haven't healed and they have
Yes.
no self worth, and it's normal. It feels comfortable. It feels comfortable. You actually have to get out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
to accept anything that's actually normal.
Right.
So, what would you say to them about how to get off that hamster wheel?
Yeah, I would just say, because for my own personal self, I just jumped off of it, and you just have to do it. You have to do it for yourself, um, to make this thing one start your healthy path, and just got to move forward and get off that wheel. Just jump, take that hard dive, and jump off of it. It's,
Mm,
it's the only
that's so
sometimes for people
powerful,
that's the only thing you can do is just jump off of it. Say you're
right?
done.
Yeah. And I think that I love our stories are so similar. I love that you just made a choice because I say the same thing. I just made a choice one day that I was going to be done drinking, and that's when my life started to change.
Yes.
And you know, when I started regaining my power back, and I started to live a life that I wanted, not a life that was just happening to me.
Right.
Like, everything that you're up until you're 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
For 50 years, life was lifing you to death.
It sure
You had
was.
no control over that, because you didn't have the self-worth and you didn't have the self-esteem and you didn't know any other way,
Right.
right?
That's all I knew.
Um, So now you're mother, your grandmother, you just got promoted at your job. So you've had a lot of wonderful things. The Jeep babes
Mm-hmm.
um, start to show up in your life in the last 5 years since you've gotten sober and since you've left your toxic relationship. I think it's amazing that how that happens. If your life is consumed with negativity or harsh consequences of the way you're living, then there's no room for the good.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, and it's like, why is this happening to me year after year after year over and over? It's because we haven't changed.
Right.
So life will keep lifing you to death until you
Mm-hmm.
start taking control of it. And it really just comes down to making a decision that enough is enough. I'm tired. I want a better life. And all of a sudden, friends will fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Toxic people will not find their way into your life because you don't let them. Then all of a sudden, the new opportunities start coming in.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to let people out there know that it does happen. And I don't know that anybody that has gone through the trauma that you've gone through or have left a domestic violence situation um, believes life is going to be grand as soon as I do this.
Mm-hmm.
They're all scared.
Yes. It
They're
is very
all
scary.
thinking life is never going to get better. You just don't even have the bandwidth or the mental capacity to
Mm-hmm.
even dream of a better life.
Right.
But it does happen.
It does happen. Absolutely.
And I want to thank you so much for being that person that gives proof that it does happen. Even it doesn't have to be dramatic. You didn't have to go to rehab or do all of these crazy things to make your life better. You literally just made a choice,
Mm-hmm.
and then you stuck to it, and you confided in your sister, which again, I got to meet her.
I love her.
Someone that you can trust, but also I think what's important is you find somebody that will be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And, and you know this about me that I will always say to my clients, like, you're not hiring me to be your best friend. You're hiring me to tell you what you don't want to hear, but you need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But I stand corrected because even my bestest friends know I'll do the same thing to them too. But
Right.
that's that's what's important is not just going to the people that are going to help keep you in that negative mindset or keep you in that trauma lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You need someone that's going to say, it's time. You're
Yes.
done. What are you going to start doing? Um, the life that you're surrounded in, you're a co-creator of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, find somebody that will have that healthy love conversation. I don't call it tough love. I call it healthy love
Okay. I like that.
conversation. Well, I want to thank you, Rhonda, again so much for sharing. Again, your story is so complex because it started at such a young age,
Mm-hmm.
and it has just been one trauma after another. And I want to just put it out there that there are so many faces to trauma,
That's right.
and that's what this program is hoping to get out there and to get resources and help and support. so that other people like us know that we're not alone. And that is, excuse my French, but as fucked up as what we thought normal was,
Mhm.
it's not normal.
Yeah.
And it was okay that we thought at some point in our life that we thought it was normal, because back then it was. It is all we knew.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? And we have to forgive ourselves, and we have to heal in order to stop the cycle of trauma. So I'm excited. You've done already so much in 5 years. And I love that I'm on this journey with you and can continue to see you thrive. So hopefully maybe we'll have you back on, and one of these podcasts, do a follow up on how you're doing. And but do you have anything last minute you want to add out to the
Yeah,
Thrive Tribe?
sure. Yeah, my mom's gave me one great piece of information I carried with me always, and it is, you will know when you had enough. And I hold that
Mm,
true to every situation in my life. You will just know.
you will know when you've had enough. What was what was it that you knew that was the time when you knew you had enough? You just knew, like, this is
You
it?
just know, like, you just know when you're done. Like
Mm,
with my ex-husband, she's like, you'll know when you had enough, because she knew what was going on. You will know when you're done. And
right.
that just was so true. And I just hold that to everything.
Yeah, and start looking for those ways, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
girl. Find it.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you again. I look forward to being on this journey with you, and hopefully, I know your story will not just help one person. I know you said if it only just helps one,
Mhm.
um, it's going to help several. And it takes a lot of guts and a lot of grit and a lot of courage to talk about such intimate things that you've talked about today. I hope that that helps with your continued healing and gives you the motivation and just the self worth, knowing that no matter what your story was before, um, it's worth sharing. And
Yes.
you are somebody, and you did deserve better, and you got it, and you're finding it. And so thank you so much. Thank you to my Thrive Tribe. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope that you were able to have some little nuggets you could take away from Rhonda's story. Stay tuned. We have more coming up for you. Have a great week.